I hope you are all well. The weather has been absolutely disgusting. Who else? Like, probably all of the UK, but how bad have you had it with you? Like, pop it in the comments. Has it been really bad where you are? I'm just going to check we are live and then we can get started. Yeah, I can see us. We're all live. So that's absolutely fabulous. What I wanted to talk to you about today is not just about the weather, but how to keep motivated when like training gets derailed. Because this weekend it was the weather, but other times it can be other things. Like we can think that maybe we've got a chance of going somewhere and we come outside and the car has got a flat tire, or we have all these great plans and then we look at the dog and the dog is lame, or we've got a girl dog and the girl dog can't go out anywhere. So we all know these sort of feelings of where we are incapable of taking your dog out. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's like you're waiting for the new fridge to be delivered and you're feeling this guilt because you're looking at the dog and think you really do need to get out today and we need to train today. And then you're looking at them thinking, but on my side, there is a reason why this can't happen. So training plans don't happen pretty regular, okay? We see it in our members like quite regularly. So like just grab a cup of tea, settle in. We just have a little bit of a chat about it now, because I think it's really important from the post I put up yesterday, where people were like thanking me for being honest with them and saying, just didn't get a chance to get out with the dogs. Like I looked outside and just thought this isn't going to happen. Now, there are two types of people, and some people will think, pub to where I'm going to go out, and that's great, and that's entirely up to them. And there's other people that'll think, pub to where I'm staying in, and that's great, it's entirely up to them. When you're going out, you do need to think, when it's weather related, about safety, right? That is the one thing I'll say. Safety says that we do not go out in this weather. When you've got people saying on the news, don't take yourself out, it's not safe, then really your dog doesn't need to go out. And I'll say that honestly, because as much as they need the exercise, you need to be sensible as well. There was a tragic story I read from the weekend where somebody's dog died. We saw like a video where another dog just accidentally got swept away, standing behind the owner. The one dog was doing fine, the other dog was a little bit smaller, turned around and the dog was being washed away. That was a different dog, and these things can happen. So if you don't need to go out when there are warning alerts, then don't go out. Don't feel like you have to. But like I said, when we started this could be any reason that you're not getting a chance to get out, right? So it could be that you have got something going on with your dog and you're like, is this sensible to go out? No, so that's like a safety aspect, isn't it? Is this safe? Is it sensible for me to go out? This can be things like your girl dog's in season. Like, is this sensible for me to take the dog out at the moment? Well, we've got to use some common sense in those times, because our dog is like a big beacon to male dogs to come find her. And you have to be sensible as an owner to what that indicates and what that means. Not just for your dog's safety, for your little girl's safety, but also the dogs that put caution to the wind, run across roads, run across fields to try and come and find your girl dog. And, even the most sensiblest, well-trained dogs can suddenly decide to do the complete opposite when they can smell a hormonal change that they are excited by. So we've got to be really sensible when we're taking dogs in season out, and what the markers we leave for other dogs are, and what it means for our dog. There would be nothing more fearful for most of our dogs, I think, if they're in that point in their season where they are not reciprocal. It would be dreadful if they were reciprocal, but if they were not reciprocal to big dogs, male dogs bounding over to them and then being on a lead and not able to get away from us. So most of you, I'm sure, already know this. So, I'm preaching to the choir a little bit there, but that's one of the things that we need to look at. But setbacks aren't failures when you can't get out. They're just a small detour. And if you get that in your mind, you'll start thinking about it a little bit differently. Sometimes, like I said yesterday, enforced recovery day, it's good to have an enforced recovery day where we have to sit and maybe think and maybe change or adapt the way we're going to train our dogs. Sometimes we need to have a different plan of action. That plan of action can be do nothing. And that's not the end of the world. As far as I'm aware, no dog died from having a day off from having a walk. I know they didn't, right? Okay, they might be a little bit more like wound up a little bit, but most of them for one day really won't notice about it. Even 2 days on like a weekend we've had, they really won't all really notice about it. They might see a difference in their pattern and be like, "Weren't you meant to have taken me out by now?" But it won't be a huge thing to them, okay? So use the time to rest and regroup. And now don't spend the weekend beating yourself up for the fact that you didn't go out, because it isn't the end of the world. And if you spend that weekend of enforced recovery feeling guilty, there was no point you having it anyway. Do you know what I mean? There was a reason you couldn't get out. So then don't spend that time actually feeling bad about the fact you couldn't get out. You might as well enjoy the fact you're not out. Does that make sense to everyone? Put like a comment, like a yes or a thumbs up or something to let me know if you're getting what I mean by that. But it is really important for us to have that activity about whatever what is thrown at us. Like, so many things get thrown at me. Sometimes I think, oh my God, do I need any more things to be thrown at me by life, by health, by whatever? But we can always look for some sort of silver lining. I know I talk about it in my book, but the silver lining is always there. So, if this weekend I got to drink a cup of tea and put my slippers on and not do anything, I looked for the positive side of what something I just couldn't control. And there's lots of things in life we just can't control. Other ways you can deal with it is to do indoor training. Like, all our members are expert LWDG group expert Claire Denia, absolutely fabulous. Straight away, as soon as we could see the weather, she put in videos, things you can do indoors. We've got our master classes. We've got them, I think, from COVID times. With COVID times, it was like ancient times. But from that time, we did like 6-week training. You could do at home, fun things you could do like in the garden, at home, that type of stuff. So our members had that to access as well. So there's loads of things you can do that don't require you to actually step that far from the house. You can literally have a dummy, throw it around in the kitchen and work on different things and still get quite a good amount of mental stimulation for your dog out of it. You can also spend the day planning for the next sunny day. I know we can't say in the UK when the next sunny day is, but what we can definitely do is think about, okay, what am I going to do on my next day and why am I doing this? So like a little bit of a time to review. So sometimes you can have like an end of year review. You could use a day when you can't go out. You can say, well, I'll use half hour to like have a review of where we are with you, dog, what is going well, what isn't going well, that type of thing. And maybe like adjusting plans and trying things with a fresh mindset when you're going out. Like, just use that time to really think deeply about where you are with our dogs. Because sometimes we can tend to go out every day and we do the pattern, we do the training, and we do this thing. We're very much stuck in do. We do. We're always in the activity and the action. And that's really, really good, because action is where we get movement. But also planning, do, review. The planning review tends to, by lots of us, to be dropped off as like not important things. Again, we're really, really busy, so we don't do those things. But those things are part of a process. Plan, do, review. So make sure you are giving time to all three of them. Like, when we started, like when I started, I'm sure you were the same. When I started, I knew what a training session looked like to a certain extent, because my dad was, an exceptional trainer of his own dogs. He wasn't a public trainer, but he had so many dogs, kennels with a huge team, that dogs would have about 10 minutes one-to-one time. They'd be out for longer, but they'd have about 10 minutes one-to-one time working with him, because he had such a big team to get through. Now, I learned from him what I needed to do, but I learned a 10-minute training session, not an hour session or a 45-minute walk session. That stuff didn't happen growing up on a farm. And see if anybody can relate. Again, like, pop something in the comments. Think about when we grew up. Nobody was really taking the dogs for a walk anyway. Okay, there was the odd time we might have said on a Sunday afternoon, should I take the dog for a walk? And I'm not that old, but it wasn't such a big thing to do. Now we've changed our behaviour with pets, a lot of it for the good, and we tend to be very, very specific about like walking them so many times a day, and they have a pattern, and we spend a lot of time focused on them. But if we look at it, do they need all that? So on the days that we can't do it, should there be any guilt around the fact that we can't do it? And I would say no, there shouldn't be any guilt around those days. If there's times when you have to go a long time without getting the dog out and mentally stimulating the dog, that's a different situation. But we are talking about here a weekend where weather played its part, was incredibly dramatic, threw everything from the sky it possibly could across the country. And it just wasn't going to happen, and we shouldn't feel bad about that. So think about what's your why for training. Share it in the comments, because the why you train, if you read it, if you write it down and then you read it, you might be a little bit like, okay, so that's my reason for training, because I want to get to this position. So did that mind if it had a day off? Did my end goal actually get damaged by me not doing 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and it's not the end of the world. And sometimes it's good for dogs to have breaks in patterns, because expected behavior, if it's consistent, times, ways you walk, things like that, and you break from that, you just change their pattern of behavior, and that could be a little bit of a, what's going on here for them? So I hope this has been really, really helpful for you. And hopefully from this, you're going to spend your time not feeling so guilty every time you have to have an evening off. That's all for this evening. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know in the comments, and we'll speak again soon. Good night.